And I don't mean me. I mean Conor's back. Conor McGregor is back, and he seems focused. So he's just announced that he's coming back in January the 18th, I think he said. So let's just catch up with the man himself and listen to what he says.
Around, I would like to announce to the public the return of the notorious Conor McGregor will take place on January 18th in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. So that is my comeback fight. It is 12 weeks this Saturday. I'm in prime physical condition.
Christ, 12 weeks. January the 18th is 12 weeks. That's worrying. What about Christmas, New Year, Halloween, and Guy Fawkes Night? You know, all of these things. We've got to get them out of the way first, Conor. But good to hear he's back, that's for sure. And love him or hate him, most people envy him and hate him because they're jealous of him. Let's put it straight. They are envious and jealous of what he's done and what he has and what he's achieved. They are. And that's why they love to hate him. But one thing's for sure, they love to hate him. Yeah? They love to hate him. They all watch, don't they? They all watch, see what he's doing, so that they can talk shit about him. But they love to hate him. Me, I admire him. I know the path he's taken. So I've walked a slightly different path, but very similar at the same time. I know what he went through, know what he's gone through. Not to the levels he has, but yeah, I can see where he's coming from most of the time.
I have agreed the date with the I have agreed the date with the company. As far as the opponent, I have the opponent's name, but for me, the game I am in, and from experience, if I was to give you people the name, which I would love to do, I know the UFC would flip it. Because they are a crafty company. So for me, here's this one. Ask the UFC who the opponent is, because I do not give a fuck who the opponent is. January.
I've got a smile on her face. He is the bad guy. He loves playing the bad guy. So who do you think his opponent is? That's the weird one. Gaethje? Yeah, Justin Gaethje, perhaps. I think that's the early one. Frankie Edgar, they were talking about him, but he's too small time. You know, what's the point? I mean, it's a warm-up fight, but yeah, I think it's going to be Gaethje. Yeah, he'd just go in. It's a good style for him as well. It just sort of, you know, he can stand up and fight. He's not going to be grappled to the ground and then laid on for 5 rounds, is he, like Khabib always does. So, sort of dry humping for 5 hours. Doesn't like to fight, does he? Just likes to sort of climb on top of you like, you know, some sort of sexual deviant and dry hump you for a few rounds. But yeah, Conor's back, and that's all I like to hear. Conor's back. He's talking like his old self, and yeah, I think it might be Gaethje, Justin Gaethje.
18th, the return of the notorious Conor McGregor, 12 weeks this Saturday at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. That will be the beginning of my season. I will then look to compete against the winner of Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal for the bad motherfucker title.
He's putting himself in the frame for that as well. Love it. Dana's already said that's a one-time deal, you know, but then Conor a couple of days ago was saying he designed the belt. So really, it's his belt already because he designed it. I don't know. We don't know, do we? We'll never know. But it's going to be interesting to see what Dana says on this. But, you know, I love Conor and I love his balls. I know he's gone through some shit, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's just good to hear he's back. He is, without doubt, the most exciting thing in combat sports. Whether you like to admit that or not, he is the most exciting thing in combat sports. Yes, he's gone through some shit and he's done some shitty things. But in a second, we will talk about that. And there's no excuses for what he done, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's just get this out of the way first.
Obviously, I have history with Nate Diaz. We are set to make the trilogy bout. So we will see how that one goes. I feel Nate will get the better of that one, and we will contest the trilogy bout. Then I will seek the Moscow bout, and it will be against the winner of Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov. I can't even say the guy's name. Who gives a fuck what the guy's name is? But that is the bout we want. We want this bout in Moscow. The people of Russia deserve this bout to take place.
No one gives a fuck what his name is, do they? Khabib. Who cares? You know, who cares? One trick pony.
People of the world deserve this bout to take place. It is an inevitable rematch. It is a rematch that I will come in sharp, fresh. I will have no injuries. I will have no alcohol. I will have no outside influences. I will be fully focused. Exactly what the people deserve. Exactly what.
I mean, he's an Irishman, and he's got Christmas and New Year to contend with. You know, right in the middle of his fight camp and before the fight. I mean, Christmas and New Year. I know Ronda Rousey did it. She had a big fight in January and she did it, but I don't know. There's a little bit, will he make it through Christmas and New Year without sort of going off the rails? I don't know. I really hope he does. You know, I hope he does. I mean, every day for Conor McGregor must be like Christmas and New Year, so he doesn't really need to indulge too much at Christmas. You know, if he can just stay focused. You know, we know he's one of the most exciting things in combat sports, whether you want to admit that or not. You know, whether you're too envious and jealous, you can't even admit that. He is, without doubt, the most exciting thing in combat sports. He's changed the game, yeah? All the fighters are getting so much more money now. He's changed the game. He's crossed over into boxing and back. You know, he really has changed the game. The amount of money Conor's brought into it, the amount of influence, the amount of eyes he's brought onto UFC and combat sports, he has changed the game. Whether you want to admit that or not, he's changed the game. Anyway, so let's listen and continue on.
The fans deserve, and we will settle it once and for all.
Is it an official statement? You're going to fight against Khabib in Moscow, like maybe next year?
Oh, yes. Oh, well, the winner of Tony and Khabib. He is afraid of the Moscow bout for whatever reason. I'm not sure. Does he represent Russia? I don't think he does represent Russia. I've never seen the man represent Russia in my life. Have you ever seen him raise a Russian flag like I raised the Irish flag with pride? I have never seen it once in my life. He is running from the bout in Moscow. The public want it. The people want it. His own father wants it. He does not want it. He wants to bring a man down to a weight he has never competed in before. Even though in that weight division, he himself has almost died making that weight.
So he's talking about GSP having to drop weight from like middleweight or whatever the hell he is, all the way down to 155. And Conor's saying that, you know, Khabib struggles to get to 155 and missed weight a couple of times trying to get there. So yeah, he's right there, that's for sure. Is Khabib scared of fighting in Russia, Moscow? I don't know. I think maybe Conor's onto something there. I don't think Khabib wants to fight there because Conor will have more popularity than Khabib in his own country. I think that's the worry there. Khabib won't be as supported as much as Conor is in Russia. That's my gut feeling. I mean, Conor will have such a huge following in Russia. I mean, he really will. You saw that when he went to see Vladimir Putin and all that sort of stuff. I mean, Conor is, you know, whether you want to accept it or not, Conor is a megastar, and he really does. He changed the game. You know, he changes the game. He brings a crowd wherever he goes. So let's just continue on.
He's afraid of risk. A man who fears risk will conquer nothing long-lasting. There will be no longevity in his career, as he has he does not take risk at all. His last opponent was a former featherweight, which I knocked out in 90 seconds. I knocked out that man in 90 seconds. It took him over three rounds to get the job done. So this is an inevitable rematch. We know this. We know it is happening. He can run, and he does run. It is in the nature of the Dagestani man to run. Every great Russian knows this about the Dagestani man. Every Chechen knows this about the Dagestani man. They run and they cower, and that's it. And that's what you were seeing with Khabib. He is running and he is cowering away like he did in Brooklyn when I showed up that day. So It is an inevitable rematch. I will tell him this, you can run, but you cannot hide. You've seen him last week, or whenever it was, he ran out of the press conference. He scurried out of the press conference here in Moscow. It is in his nature, but trust me, I am coming for him. But forget him for the minute. Like I said, January 18th, the return of a fully focused, notorious Conor McGregor will take place in the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Ask the UFC who the opponent is, because I do not give a fuck. I am going to go through the entire roster like a chainsaw through butter. Make no mistake about that.
There you go, he speaks. The man speaks. Well, he's back. Who do you think his opponent will be? Who do you think it will be? I don't know. I think it's Gaethje. I think that's the only one on the horizon that I can see. Like I say, Frankie Edgar, I don't think there's no point there. Gaethje would be a nice little comeback fight, a warm-up fight, a tune-up fight. And then, obviously, he can choose then to fight the winner of Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. And then after that, it's the winner of Khabib and Tony. So we've got some good fights coming up if he can just stay focused. You know, if he can just stay focused and stay off the booze and the coke. And that's the thing, you know. People don't realise because they've never walked a mile in his shoes, you know. They've never achieved anything. They've never achieved... You know, a lot of people haven't achieved anything. And I admire Conor purely because I understand where he's coming from. He came from sort of the streets of Dublin. And, you know, I came from absolute nothing. I didn't have any wealth, you know. My parents weren't rich by any stretch, quite the opposite. I grew up very, very sort of in a very, let's say a lot of poverty. Yeah, there was a lot of poverty around where I lived. Although it was a nice, you know, where I live, where I grew up, it's beautiful now. But back then, in the early 70s, it wasn't nice. Nowhere in Britain was that nice in the early 70s. So I grew up in poverty, you know, and I worked my fucking ass off to get where I got, and I chose an obscure profession, and I managed to make it work just through pure hard work and dedication. And by the age of sort of 24, I was managing, and then I always wanted to, you know, own. So by the age of 29, which is the same age Conor made his millions, I bought my first business. And then success breeds success. So I mean, I didn't have a fucking penny, but I just made the right moves. I begged, borrowed, and stealed. I mean, I did everything to get 10 grand together, and then I invested that into my first business, and I paid off. Once I was in there, I paid off the rest of the business, and I did well. You know, I worked hard. 7 days a week, I worked my fucking balls off. And then I bought my first little flat, my apartment. And then we bought another one. I met someone I was with, and we bought another one. We had 2 apartments, and then we sold one of them, and we bought a big house, swimming pool. We were living good. Motorbikes, cars, convertibles, I mean, and that was all at around about 30, 31 years old. I'd achieved that. So I went from absolutely nothing to being worth over £1 million. And that was 15, 16 years ago. You know, a long time ago. So from nothing to being worth over £1 million is when you're working it out. I remember the day I worked it out, £1 million. I was worth well over $1 million. I was like, fuck, what have I done? But when you come from nothing, you do, you know, when you've had nothing all your life, and then all of a sudden you create something and you have something, you spend, you know, you buy all those things you always wanted. You do all those things you always wanted to do because you never could before, and all of a sudden you're in a situation. That's why, you know, making a million can destroy someone. because you just go a bit crazy for the first few years. So I can relate to Conor 100%. You know, I really can. I can relate to him 100%. And it takes a few years of adjustment because especially for Conor, I mean, the numbers he's achieved, and it happened for him so quickly. A couple of years, he's worth 100 million plus. So to go from 0 to being worth over 100 million plus, having all these businesses, all these fingers in all these pies, his clothing line, his alcohol, you know, his whiskey line, everything, can't go anywhere, being one of the most recognizable faces on the planet. I mean, the temptations are there. You saw it with Tyson and all that stuff, you know, the temptations are there. You know, and when you're only 30 years old, he's in his early 30s, 31, 30, 31. I mean, the temptations are insane when you have anything you want, when you can have anything you want. When for the first 30 years of your life, you've never been able to have anything you wanted. It was always a dream. And now you're quite literally living the dream. You can have anything or anyone you want. And you're only 30 years old. That's something most people will never experience. And because of that, that's where a lot of people envy Conor and other people like him. You know, you get a lot of hate when you're in that situation, in that position, because people envy you. You know, you get a lot of friends that come along and they just want to hang out and, you know, get what you got, you know. So I understand 100% what Conor's going through, what he's been through, and now he's sort of starting to stabilize, you know. He's starting to stabilize. He's gone crazy on booze and coke and all the rest of it. But trust me, when the temptations are there, sometimes they're irresistible. So it's good that he's still young and he's still got good people around to focus him. And I really do hope he can control those temptations, focus for the next 12 weeks, and really come back strong and hard like the old Conor we used to love. Yeah, you can wave that tricolour, that Irish flag, wave it high, get the proud Irish behind him, and we can see a bit of the old Conor coming back. That's my hope. Anyway, tell me what you think. Do you think it is going to be Gaethje who's his next opponent is? I think it's probably the only person out there that can sort of fit the bill. It's a nice sort of tune-up fight. He wasn't ready to come back and face Khabib straight away. That was ego that came out there. He knows that, and we certainly do. It was ego that fucking got the better of him there. So I think he needs a few tune-up fights, get himself back in the fighting mindset, you know, the mindset of a fighter. So smash up Gaethje. They'd probably do him quite quickly. Just get back into the ring, get back into the flow, become a fighter again rather than an entrepreneur and a superstar. You know, get the hunger back, and I think we're going to see a few more good fights out of Conor, and then hopefully he does go on to face Diaz Masvidal, and then he goes on to reclaim the belt off of Khabib, if Khabib still got it after the Tony fight. So let me know. Talk to me. Tell me downstairs in the comments. Let me know what you think. Is it going to be Gaethje? Do you think Conor's back for good now, or is he going to go off the rails around Christmas, New Year time? That's going to be the time of temptation for him. So like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell a family. And until next time, I'm out of here.